Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Welcome back, everybody. Time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Very happy to welcome Kyle Starks to Word Balloon. Kyle, I've been a long admirer. When I first became aware of your work, I was telling you at Tony and Kara Moore's old Cincy Comic Con, and that's when I first got a hold of Sex Castle.
Oh yeah,
and then,
where it all started.
Was that your first book, really?
It's my first published book. Yeah, I self-published. I actually self-published Sex Castle too. I did 2 Kickstarters and then off to the races. It's crazy.
That's awesome, man. Well, you're killing it lately. I mean, certainly we know your work with Oni on Rick and Morty. I'm going to grab an image. Boom.
Yeah, we did that for a long time.
Absolutely. And also, I love what you're promoting now from Skybound. Fuck this place, and that's great, man. Now, were you inspired by Scotty Young and Fuck Fairyland, or
you know what's funny is I guess like I didn't realize I think I had heard something about that before, which is to say the title change because the retailers did not like Fuck This Place. So we went with I Hate This Place. I fought real hard for this title for Fuck This Place. I fought real hard for it because I thought it really emoted like the tone of the book, like, which is how I would feel if I was on a haunted, terrible monster ranch. I'd just be saying it all the time. And we really fought for it, but I guess it shows a real naivete on my part because I didn't think stores wouldn't like it, which is great. So Stevenson was like, we need a different title, and I was like, oh, I Hate This Place. No one said anything to me. No one said we've already done that, or else maybe I would have tried to come up with something different. So it's a funny little coincidence. But yeah, no, it wasn't intentional. They're going to have Image is going to have like a whole /I Hate This Place extended universe. And I guess I can't ask for better company than Scotty Young, obviously.
Well, and I don't know, can you offer it as a variant? Because
it is a variant.
So, okay, excellent. Okay,
that's
good,
why,
good.
And that's part of we're really pushing Final Order Cutoff. If you want Fuck This Place, which to me is the title of the book, you're probably going to have to special order it. You're probably going to have to ask your retailer for it. But yeah, it's 2 versions. There's I Hate This Place and there's Fuck This Place. There's the 2 titles.
Well, as soon as I heard the premise, and I want you to describe the premise, but it reminded me of that first season of American Horror Story where, and now I'm blanking on her name, the wife. I mean, as soon as they're there, and the first weird thing it says, like, we got to get the fuck out of this place.
Yeah, that's the right response, I think.
So give people the 10-cent tour.
Yeah, the sort of elevator pitch is this couple inherits a ranch, and it's the most paranormal place on Earth. It's got ghosts, it's got lights in the sky, it's got monsters, it's got some sort of dark entity roaming the lands. Really, I wanted there's a place in Utah called Skinwalker Ranch that some people know and some people don't, and I had heard of this place. I listened to a podcast about it. I'm like, oh, this seems like it would be an interesting setting for a story. And by no means is that the setting, but I'd never heard of a place that had cryptids and ghosts and UFOs and all these crazy, I'd never heard of it. I'm like, what a great setting. And I saw Kirkman, Daddy Kirkman. I saw him at New York Comic Con several years ago. And I was like, do you think this sounds like an interesting setting, right? And he's like, oh yeah, that's great. And I'm like, all right, well, I'll figure out the story because the place is just a thing to me. The story, the characters, and all that's way more important. But I became very invested because I sort of stole and created a place where I can do all the genres of horror, I think, as time permits. And that's really exciting to me as a horror fan. I've only done comedy stuff to this point. Yeah. So to have all these options when I do sort of my first is thrilling. I think Aryam, who's the artist, and Lee Lawton are doing a great job. I'm really enjoying it. I think we're gonna put something out there that's gonna be a lot of fun and interesting and a good time for all, a good spooky time for all. So yeah, a nice couple inherits terrible, awful place.
Now, so will it be more serious than your usual comedy?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's
Okay.
I mean, there's something intrinsically wrong with me where I can't do something that's not charming, at least, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I hope it's dark. I hope it gets dark. I know it has, like, the danger elements are very high and the baddie elements very high. But it's like I want to spend time with a certain type of character. And so I think Trudy and Gabrielle, who are the two female leads, I think they're both charming. I think Gabby, who's on the right there, is extremely charming. She's very likable. She's very sort of happy-go-lucky optimist, which is like not going to work out great on this terrible ranch. And her wife Trudy is sort of like a more pragmatic, like survivalist type. But they're very charming. I think they're charming characters, and you know, they're how they react to things, I think, is charming. But also, it's definitely a comedy book. But I do think some of my like comedic, like my maybe strongest comedic inspirations are more from like the bad throwaway jokes in 80s action movies. So it's like I've always liked the idea of things existing in different places. So it's not funny. It's not funny. Is it charming and maybe amusing? Maybe in parts, but it's definitely a spooky. So
that's great, man. No, I'm thrilled, and God,
I'm extremely anxious about it. Just so you know.
Sure. Well, final cutoff is coming up this month.
4/25.
Okay, so yeah, just 2 weeks away, or 11 days away from as we're recording this.
If you with that dirty title, you got it. You almost definitely have to ask for it, I bet, unless you have a very cool store, a very cool hip store.
Well, and I'm glad Kirkman and Skybound believe in what you're doing, man. I mean, I also enjoyed. Was this through Skybound as well? Assassination.
Yeah, this is my third official Skybound thing. I did Assassination with Erica Henderson, and then in January, the trade Kicks of Trigger Keaton came out, and I did a Dr. Pepper comic for him that never came out. A single shot Dr. Pepper comic. I like Skybound. Kirkman's a good Midwestern boy, so I think that has some weight maybe for me. I don't know, but yeah, they like me. I like them, and I like being liked. That's for sure. So,
what's your Midwest background? Where are you from? I'm a Chicago guy myself.
I'm from Southern Indiana.
Hey, awesome. Yeah. Very cool. There you go.
Born and raised, still here. We don't love it, but you know what? The cost of living is very cheap.
I understand. No, that's great, man. No, I got a lot of friends that live in Northwest Indiana, like Munster and places like that, but Highland. But but and of course Fort Wayne, discount comic book service, and in stock trades. Love those guys.
In stock trades is in Fort Wayne. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's the same.
I love in stock trades.
Yeah, it's they're terrific. Really, Cam. They're wonderful people. Absolutely.
I didn't know that was a Hoosier company. How exciting for me. One more thing to like what Axl Rose and in stock trades.
There you go, man.
What else do you need? Larry Bird.
Yeah, I was gonna say Larry Bird, the Indiana based basketball, definitely.
We got some Kurt Vonnegut. We got some stuff here.
There you go. Oh, this is great. And I've actually got the cover ready to acknowledge this. Dennis says Old Head is amazing. Yeah, tell me about Old Head. Great cover. I haven't read this one yet.
So Old Head's complicated, kind of. So Old Head, it came out in October. It is my horror action comedy. It is a tough sell, but it's great. And that's the best sell. It's really good. But it's basically about a former sort of tough guy athlete who goes home to bury his mother with his daughter, finds out they live next door to Dracula's castle. His mother was a vampire hunter. There's a lot about legacy and toxic masculinity. It's great. It's one of my objectively, it's one of my best books. I think I can say safely. It is a weird elevator pitch. It was originally going to be the book I did after Sex Castle, actually. But what happened was Sex Castle got so much attention. We optioned it before it came out. It was nominated for Eisner Awards, and Old Head is it's tough for me to say, this is why the book is good, right? But it's good. Some things just are difficult to categorize. And so it was like, I think it's a mistake to try to put out something like this after my first book, because I don't have the audience to support it, and it'll. So we wait. Also, my wife would be like, if you put out 2 books and they were Sex Castle and Old Head, you would be the dumb title guy, and she's correct. So I waited until last year. I think it's great. I think also, like, I'm doing a horror thing, so it was kind of like my easing into horror stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I love those themes. I love legacy. I love the importance of parenting. I love dismissing toxic masculinity whenever I can. So Old Head, I'm real proud of it. I think it's a great book. And I highly, if you like Sex Castle or if you like Rock Candy Mountain, I think you'll love Old Head. I think you'll really enjoy it. And it's one of those things. It's like, it has certain elements that people like, is there sports in it? I guess kind of, but not really. Like, I'm not making anyone read a basketball game. That's terrible. It's just, everything is an element. Like, in good writing, everything's an element to set up another element. And so it has some stuff. So yeah, Old Head, it's great. Look at that great cover. Good colors by Chris Schweitzer. We love him.
Yeah, man, I do love that you're always collaborating with Chris.
Yeah, he's my best friend.
There you go. That makes sense. So, all right, because I wasn't sure.
Now he's my best friend. Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's terrific.
But, I found my best friend as an old man. Isn't that great?
Are you? So I mean, again, I'm used to you writing and drawing. Some of these, obviously, with Erica, you drew it and co-plotted it, I'm assuming.
So for Erica, I wrote it.
Okay,
that's her great art. That's why it's much better.
Of course. Excuse me.
Yeah, Old Head I wrote and drew. Sex Castle, Rock Candy Mountain. Those are the ones I wrote and drew. Yeah. Rock Candy Mountain.
Yeah.
Everything else I wrote.
That's awesome, man. No, I again, I think you're doing great stuff. I think funny stuff, and I'm excited to check out Fuck This Place as far as being a new tone and the horror for you. That's terrific. How long do you think it took? Or how long. Actually, there's quantitative math here. Before publishers kind of caught up with what you were doing, because I think of you, I think of Scotty, a good friend. I don't know if you know Art Baltazar. He's another good friend of mine.
I don't know Art. I know. Oh yeah, Muncie though. So
there you go. Of course, Christie's store. Sure.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Blanche, love Dr. Blanche.
Dr. Blanche, absolutely.
So I've been very lucky. So when Sex Castle came out, like I said, it was nominated for an Eisner for Best Humor Publication. And if you can prove that you can do comedy, you get a lot of opportunities to fail. Really,
I was going to say, I mean, because it's I think things are getting better as for comedy comics and stuff.
You know what?
Tell me, all right, better.
Comedy is a whole. We can tangent into that because I think it's a whole thing, and it's part of why I did Fuck This Place, or I Hate This Place. Anyway, so I did Sex Castle, and so I got offered. I did an issue of Invader Zim, but then I got offered Rick and Morty, and at the time, Rick and Morty was not. It is not what it is now. Is not what it was. No one really knew what it was. The first season no one watched it. I mean, like, it's just like until they put it on Hulu, no one watched it. And I was working on it before it was on Hulu, just because I love Dan Harmon's work on Community. So Rick and Morty turning into a big deal. Rick and Morty, the comic, selling really well, was good. Image has been incredibly kind to me. They liked Sex Castle. I did Rock Candy Mountain, which did, I'm gonna say fine. I think it's great. So I'm out there, I'm getting opportunities. And I've just been lucky not to, I haven't had to do anything I didn't want to do, and I haven't done anything I'm not proud of yet. And so, when did Skybound? Well, Skybound came along because of Erica. Like, she was just off Squirrel Girl, and we're really good friends. And I had an idea, and she was in for it at the time. She had a window, so little things like that. It's a lot of good luck. Matt Fraction discovered, but he read Sex Castle before when it was a Kickstarter, basically, and he put me in touch with Image. And I always say, oh man, I'm so indebted to Matt. And he's like, well, if it wasn't good, and he's like, well, that's true. That's part of it. I say I'm very lucky, but if I wasn't good, it wouldn't matter. But I think there's a ton of stuff out there that's great that no one ever sees. So agree. There's that real balance. So I would say, I'm at a point where I'm lucky to get many opportunities. or at least many interests, right? I'm at a point where I'd really like to have more readers. And that's how it's always been. Is that I really just want my stuff to be seen so badly,
Of course.
and that's what we're endeavoring for. And so part of that is, so I'll swing back around, is that I think comedy is a tough sell in comics. I think more often than not, and I'm not disparaging anybody or their work, but I think more often than not, it's not very good. It's very gaggy, which is a very specific comedy that's not funny to a lot of people. And I think the number of people who do comedy regularly well today, like in 2022, it's small. And Chip's great at it. Mark Russell's great at it. I think I'm great at it, but it's so small. Scotty is good at it.
Mark Russell.
Yeah, so I said Mark Russell. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think Mark Russell's. I think he's the comedy man now that Chip is big time. Fraction does comedy great, but with those books, no one. What I sort of found is that no one sells those books as comedy books, and I think that's because it's a dirty word in comics especially for direct market readers. And I think that's because they've been burned so many times, like so many big two books that just aren't funny. And so for me, especially during the pandemic, I was having a real sort of crisis of faith, and a couple people, a couple editors were like, "Don't do something besides comedy." And even Kirkman was like, "Do this book, but don't do it funny," which it never was going to be funny. And I was like, "Oh, well, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do." But since then, it's like, why though? Like, I really like, I want to do more than just comedy. But I really like that I'm good at it, and that I can put a smile on someone's face. I can get a laugh out of a book. One book, I think, is a real achievement. And so I think that's something for me to not like. I feel bad now, like I ever doubted it. It's like I know what I'm good at, and I think making people happy is important. And if that's my legacy, like that's awesome. But I also do want to put people in terrible situations on a haunted ranch. So.
No, that's great, man. And I'm glad you're finding your own comfort level with what you're doing, and the audience will come. I mean, and again, I understand. The good news is, I think hopefully people that discover you through Rick and Morty are going to lean back and check out your back catalog, but also, I guess not. I don't know. I mean, again,
I don't think so.
No?
I always think the next book. I think there's always some. There's a word for that, right? People who will actually go back.
Yeah.
But I think it's smaller. It's smaller than what I would like.
Sure.
Because I know this because every book I do within a certain group is like, that's the book. They're like, oh, I gave it to my friends. I had to get another copy. I gave it to another friend. Like it's like, and it's because it's comedy. I mean, I'm certain it's because it's comedy. And if I was someone who was really adept at noirs like Brubaker, I think I'd be killing it. Not that I couldn't do a noir. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, okay. Beyond horror, are there other genres you're going to hit? I mean, Rocky Mountain is obviously a bit of a Western and everything in its own way.
Yeah, I think it's still maybe kind of a comedy. Everything I do I would say action comedy to some degree.
Agreed.
Rocky Mountain definitely is more of a period piece. Yeah, I'm working on another horror comedy now, which is still comedy, which just seems like. But like I said, I just if I have an idea and it makes me happy, I'm going to work on it. I have some other definitely serious stuff that I'm going to be circulating hopefully in the next year. I have so many projects today.
Good.
Yeah. But,
ooh, I love big dogs. All right.
We got 3 of them, and someone just. I think the mailman just delivered something.
Not a problem. It's all good.
Dinah, Daddy's working. As a creative person, I don't want to just do one thing, but I also like my whole thing. I think as a creative person is that you should try to put in the world what you want to exist, like what you wish was there or what you wish there was more of. And for me, it's like, man, I wish there were so many good action comedies because I think if it's done well, it's just like my favorite. Like you get fights and you get heart stuff. Like that's all I throw in a couple of jokes. Like it's like a real buffet of experiences that I like. But I 100% want to do I want to do everything. Do I have an idea for everything today? No. I have another really dark story I'd like to do, which I'm going to pursue soon. And I have like a sci-fi thing. There's everything, right? You want to do everything. So I'm in that. So this is like this book will in many ways be, I guess, a litmus test. But I think if you can do comedy, comedy and horror are very similar beasts in terms of storytelling. They're both pacing, they're both setup, they're both payoff, they're both establishing a tone. And I think I think if people can do comedy well, can do anything well. I hope, I say that sort of a joke because, think of how many great comedic actors do a really incredible dramatic turn. Because if you understand the beats of bigger things, it's all just moving them around, right? So yeah, I hope this book, the what's the word I'm looking for? The responses from people who I don't know who've read this book have been really like I'm so anxious about it. So it's so nice for people like, oh, it's really good. I'm like, oh, good, because I wanted it to be really good. So
I understand. Well, and also writing comedy and performing comedy, you have to believe in the reality, and you have to convey that in the writing as well. That even though it's funny, these people are taking it seriously. So yeah, I get it.
I think a lot of people don't take that into account, and I think so when I do pitches, I never like my pitches for comedy stuff because it just seems like a series of silly things, and it's like, but that's what it is. But that's not what's funny about it. It's funny is that real people are experiencing these ridiculous situations, they're causing them by that's what's funny about it. It's not like silly things happen. It's the reality that these people find themselves in.
Right. Absolutely, man. No,
that's
definitely.
a great point.
And also well, thank you. The also, I think not only the big two have burned us with comedy comics, but I know growing up, and I'm a bit older than you, I think, and I'll even name names, Charlton. I mean, when they would do Hanna-Barbera or Warner Brothers comic books, they weren't that funny.
They're like gag bits. Or it's always like low-hanging fruits, and I think it's just something you have to really care about, and obviously have some sort of sensibilities, I think, for it. I mean, I don't know if you know Chip. Chip's always funny. He's always funny.
He's hilarious. Absolutely.
I'd like to think that I'm frequently funny. You
made me laugh when we did that panel at Cincy Comic-Con. So,
I'm doing it. But I think you have to want to do. That's the thing I always feel like they're always like they have someone who's just, you put some writer on it to try to be funny, or they never seem to work. And I think again, I think there's exceptions. I think like Deadpool, I think is frequently amusing. I don't think it's something, but for the most part, like if the big two don't understand nuance. If you give them something that's a little bit funny, they want to make it like just a joke, like a punchline. And it's like, well, punchline's only funny once. So it's like you find a way to make it funny. That's why Deadpool is a really interesting example of them sort of getting away from that. Because then you look at something like the Great Lakes Avengers, even the JLI stuff became like the great, which I think is like, if you're like, oh, what's a great comedy book? It's like, oh, the Giffen de Mateus JLI is a masterclast of what humorous comics should be. But at points it became such a weird punchline-y, it wasn't funny anymore. It's just like slapstick. And it's like slapstick in a comic isn't funny. It doesn't make any sense. You can't see the slapstick. Slapstick also wasn't very funny as a comic.
Did you ever see Siegel and Schuster's Funny Man book, the book they tried to make after Superman?
No, I have not. Is it good?
Yeah, no. Ironically, Funny Man is not funny. So
I think it's tough to do for sure.
Absolutely, man. Very cool. Well, we're talking to Kyle Starks and talking about his action comedies, but also I Hate This Place, a stretch for him in terms of getting your feet wet in the horror business. I love it. We're going to come back and talk more right after this.
Every part of comics and artwork is a form of communication with other people. It's not just here, let me direct my thoughts at you as a dictation of concept, but it's hoping to convince you of how cool you think a visual could be or a story could be. And you're trying to communicate ideas in one part storytelling and greater part just graphic impact. You're hoping to relate a sense of energy, urgency, and enthusiasm to people. that there's a lightning of spirit that comes out of superheroes that has always worked for me, that it isn't really about the practicality of what they might do, it's not the practicality about grown men punching each other in costumes. It really isn't about that. It's a visual metaphor. And that metaphor could be for a lot of things, but it's mostly just about the energy and enthusiasm that can be found in the fun of life.
Back with Kyle Starks on Word Balloon and taking your questions and comments. Let's see here. Oh, I haven't read this. Dennis points out, for those who haven't read Kyle's digital comic, Louise Sprouse Stole My Heart. It's incredible. Very kind.
That is available, I think, through my Twitter. It's on my Gumroad. So during the pandemic, there was no free comic book day. And I think there was I was losing my mind. Just the whole year was awful for everybody. I'm not speaking like I had some sort of unique experience, but I didn't really work. There's no shows, and I do so many shows. And I was like, I'm gonna do a free comic book. So I did sort of I had my Twitter followers suggest titles, and I did a book called Karate Prom, and I put out a 30-something page comic for free for a free comic book day, because there was no free comic book day, and I thought we should still have comics. Someone should have comics, right, for free. And it also saved it reminded me of how much I love comics. It's the most fun I've had in several years. So last year I did the same thing. Which is Louise Sprouse Stole My Heart, and I have 2 hours to get it back is the full title. It's a free download. It's pay what you want. If you go to @the Kyle Starks on Twitter, or Gumroad, if you Google Gumroad Kyle Starks, it's on there. It gets free. It's pay what you want. It's a 48-page comic. I love it. So I'm hoping to do something this year, but I don't think I'm gonna have time, unfortunately, which sucks, because I really want to kind of be a yearly thing. Where I did a free comic book, a digital pay what you want free comic book day, but it does take time, obviously, to make comics. And these last 6 months have been, my dad passed away, and I've had health issues.
I'm sorry.
Life occurs to all of us. But it did put a whammy on my productivity. So I might try to throw something really, really sloppy together for it. But it's coming up so quick. I think May something.
A couple weeks. Yeah, only a couple weeks.
Free comic, Louise Sprouse Stole My Heart. You can get it off my Gumroad store, or pay what you want. Get it for free. I don't care. Read it. That's what I made it for. It's a good one. It's a coming of age gangster crime story. I don't know, romance. It's great.
That's outstanding, man.
I wanted to kickstart it. I was hoping, or do some whatever. It's like I said, man. I still hope to, because it's 48 pages. Like, what do you do with 48 pages in 2022? I have no idea.
Everyone is kind of, I think, experimenting with various sizes, and I think that's great. And also, I think your solution to make it, put it out there, and hey, pay what you want, I think is very nice. But yeah, and also just I don't know how the big two are getting away with charging $5 for a 20-page comic, but they are.
That's a whole other bag of worms, right? The pricing of things, all of that digital, all of that, it's all insane. I feel like I always get drawn to this, and I do not want to. But how comics, trades make more sense, digital makes more sense, but there's some in between. 20 pages. It's as a writer, Old Head is. I don't know how many pages it is. I have no idea, because no one ever said it has to be so many pages, right? And the thing is,
sure,
it's perfect. I get all my pacing in. I get all my beats in. Everything happens in the way it should. It feels natural. That's so much more enjoyable than me, and for any monthly, to go, how do I break this into 20 page? Comedy takes space. Action takes space. The 20-page thing is tough. It's for me. I think there's the guys who work, the big two guys, are so great at it. That's a skill I feel like I do not have yet. And that's where I'm really endeavoring now, is to figure out story beats and how they end, and then how you start, how you make endings in a way that's compelling, but also you have to work towards that in 20 pages. And man, it's tough. 20 pages is tough.
I always quote Jonathan Hickman, who said years ago, you go to a comic store and you see books that are on the shelf for different reasons. And I think creator-owned people do their own thing. And the big two, it's a regimented kind of size and format and everything, and that's great. And it's Deadline Media. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, I know a lot of sometimes some of my fellow podcasters will criticize artists for using the same background and putting their figures on the same. And it's like, it's Deadline Media, man. It's got to be done. You got to get it done.
Go read Kirby. He loved no background. He would do this. Kirby's my guy. Him and Urasawa and probably Dorkin and Jason, Swedish cartoonist Jason. That's probably like my influence. Mount Rushmore. I don't know. Like those guys have the thing. Like is that Kirby drew the same composition all the time. And like I use his compositions. Like I use. Why wouldn't I? So it's like it's always been that way. It's like there's and some of it's just shorthand. Like we learn a language as artists, and part of that's just shorthand. I mean, Saga is like the biggest book in the world, and I don't think Fiona drew a background at all in that book until like issue 7. Like you just do what you got to. You can do what you got to do. Like, what do you want? You want the story, right? Like the story is the thing, and that's the collaborative efforts of creative people coming together and hoping to entertain you.
I'm with you, man. I'm absolutely with you. Tell me about Six Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton.
Oh, I love Six Sidekicks just came out in January, so it's technically my newest. The trade collection came out in January. I did it last year with America's best secret cartoonist, Chris Schweitzer, who is my adult best friend and virtual studio mate. It is about sort of famous action star Trigger Keaton, who is the worst man. Just he's awful. He traumatizes everyone he meets. He's despicable, and he's found dead. And it's a murder mystery to figure out who killed him. His sidekicks sort of come along together. It bounces around 80s Hollywood because that's when they were working with him. It's a comedy mystery. I think it's a ton of fun. I think all the characters are really charming and likable. Each issue sort of stands on its own, which I like as it progresses. But I think each one you could read and be like, oh, that was fun. I think it's a six issue book we had a great time with. I think it's great. I wish there was more readers on it. Like I do everything because I think it's so good. I think it's deserving of more recognition for sure. I did a book with Chris before this called Mars Attacks. We did a Mars Attack series for Dynamite when Dynamite got the license. And like we don't know, like we were aware of Mars Attacks. Like well, obviously I know the Burton stuff, but I never saw the top stuff.
Oh, you never saw the trading cards. Go on.
Not until this book, because that's how like that was part of the idea. Is like, what if we had this other story happen as the cards happen in order? Because the cards are a sequential story on their own.
Yes, they are.
So I kind of did like a father-son thing in the foreground of all this happening, and it's funny, it's action, it's full of heart. I think it's one of the best things we did. Chris and I like he colored Rock Candy Mountain, he colored Old Head, I feel like he colored some other stuff that I can't recall. We like each other a lot. So we did a book together. He was like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. Tell him I'll do it. And I'm like, you don't just get to call your shot, but the editor really liked Chris's work because he's smart. So we did it. Anyway, we had a great time working together. We made a really great book, and I think we did it again. I think those are two really good books. They're two excellent. They're fun. I don't see how someone would not enjoy either one of them. And if you haven't read either, check them out. They're really good.
Absolutely, and again, I'll throw Sex Castle in there as well. And I clearly you're a fan of those ridiculous '80s movies and TV shows like The Fall Guy and stuff. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, that's my wheelhouse for sure. We had originally wanted to do it more of like black and white era.
What shows? Tell me what shows.
We were like, I was like, because we wanted to do like like the Rifleman, and then like Land of the Giants and Land of Lost is obviously not black and white. But I remember my dad watching those shows, so I'd always see it. I'd see them too. But we also thought like Chris is kind of a history guy, so I think he was more interested in doing more of a clear period setting than what the book is. But Skybound, their only note for the whole series was, can we move it closer? Can we do it 80? Like 80s would feel like a more like a nostalgia that more people would be able to reach out. Like that's fine. That's great. I like that too. It took away some of the old Hollywood stuff that we were kind of hoping to goof around with. but it didn't change. I mean, it didn't change anything. It changed nothing. Like Knight Rider and Weird Miami Vice is more fun, I think, than Land of the Giants. Not wildly as popular as people might. The Land of the Giants you don't hear a lot of talking about.
Well, I'm an Irwin Allen guy, and it's funny. I have MeTV, and Saturday nights, all night long, they run like Irwin Allen shows. Boom, boom.
Oh, is that right?
And oh yeah, good Lord! And they just replay the hell out of Land of the Giants. It was only that one season, but yeah,
man, I haven't seen Land of the Giants since like I said, like what
since
cable when I was 12, 14, 15.
Sure.
Oh man. I'm gonna have to check it out. I think I have MeTV. I think I have it. I'll check it out. We'll find out.
I would think most of the local stations somebody's carrying it digitally or whatever.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, exciting.
That's absolutely, man. That's excellent. So, are you done with Rick and Morty? Are you not doing it anymore?
So I worked on the regular series. The regular series ended March 2020. So the year is literally the month of pandemic.
COVID. Yeah.
COVID started was my last issue.
Shit.
I did something 45, 47 issues.
Yeah.
No. 43, something like that.
Okay.
At the time, I had made more issues of the comic than there were episodes of the show. But we killed off the regular series, and now they basically run a series of mini series, and that's because sales were going down. Thinking you needed to know issue 1 to know what's happening in issue 50. It's like it's Rick and Morty, man. Like you just buy it. It's
right.
Right. In fact, I endeavored to make it like the show. The show's the same. If there's 5 seasons, if there's 50 episodes, 6 are canonical, right? Really. And we endeavored for the book to be that same experience. So it's kind of disappointing that it ended. But I love Rick and Morty. I'm glad I got that. I would go back and do it again. I'm glad to take a break from it. I'm extremely happy to be taking a break from it. The dogs.
It's all good. Don't sweat it, man.
They're a bane to podcast interviews because they're guard dogs. So we ended in March of 2020. I ended in March. But I hope I do it again someday because I really do. I love writing those characters. Hey, Daddy's working. Come here.
It's prime dog time. That's all right.
I know. That's the thing. Like, if it's my wife who I told, like, I was like, Daddy's working. So she's supposed to be gone until. Anyway.
No worries.
So yeah, I hope to go back to it. I really love Rick and Morty. And it was a great time. It's been great for me at shows. I love being the Rick and Morty guy. I mean, I really do. I really like being the Rick and Morty guy. I can't wait until I get to be the Kyle Starks guy. That'll be really exciting for me.
Of course. No, absolutely, man. And truly, you're on your way. I really do enjoy what you put out there. I'm glad Skybound is behind you. Have you looked at Ahoy or some of these other publishers out there?
There's all these new publishers coming out, like so exciting. So I've only worked with Oni, Image, Skybound, Dynamite. I mean, I did some stuff for Squirrel Girl.
Did you in Marvel? Yeah.
Well, I'm friends with Erica, so like I did some I drew one page. I drew the Fantastic Four for Ryan North. I'm working on a project now with Dark Horse.
Great.
So I'm looking at these other places. I've spoken to some other publishers. I mean, like Vault, Ahoy. There's Mad Cave just announced they're doing creator-owned stuff. Which
yes, I saw that.
The creator-owned thing is, I don't think it's make it or break it. I mean, it's important, obviously, but it's like if it's a good publisher, then it's all like Skybound. I don't own. It's not creator-owned at Skybound, right?
Okay.
They own it. They just pay me like I'm a co-owner, and it's like, well, creator-owned's great, but it's like really the most important thing is who's the publisher, what's the deal, and can they sell books? Can they actually sell books?
Sure.
I'm interested in all that. The thing is, like, I've only really been making comics, I think, like 7 years, maybe less, 5 years professionally.
Wow.
And so, you kind of stick with what feels safe. But the thing is, like, I have ideas, and not all ideas fit everywhere. I would like to speak to Hoy. I'd like to work with Vault. I think Vault's very exciting. And there's a bunch of them now. There's a bunch of other places that I couldn't. I said Mad Cave. Who does Grit? I can't think of who does Grit. There's a bunch of them, right?
Source Point Press is another one that
that's Dr.
putting out
Blanche.
good books. Absolutely,
So
man.
yeah, I'm open to all. We want to make stories, right? I mean, it's like we want to get paid, sure, but it's like, man, I just want to make stories, and I want someone who wants to help me make stories, and I want everyone to make money. Like that's what you want. Like you want it to be a success for everybody. I'm open. I just went to order my bag because I thought it was out in trade, and it's not, because I just had someone speak really glowingly of it, which is Mark Russell's Ahoy Superman stuff.
Yep.
So I was like, man, if it's not, a lot of stuff I just haven't had the opportunity to see, unfortunately. But Mark, I mean, if you're in whomever, how smart is it to be like, well, let's get Mark Russell, let's get someone who can sell stuff and have them do all our stuff.
Oh God, yeah, but it took him a minute too. I mean, when he was doing the Hanna-Barbera stuff, I even was initially with his Flintstones. I'm like, well, it's off model, and what an idiot. So I didn't pay attention to it. Then I read it, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And of course, now the doors are open for him, and he's doing so much great stuff. Here, Wayne wanted to know, and you did mention that you've done this before. Would you consider Kickstarter for your creator? And you have done Kickstarter.
I've done it. I've done 4 Kickstarters. My first book was called The Legend of Ricky Thunder, which is about a pro wrestler who has to defend the Earth from an alien invasion. He's the world champion. You see, that's the joke. He's the world champion, and it did well. Like that's when I just that's like the smallest part of my origin story. But when we were about to have my second kid, I was like, I never finished a comic, and so I did that, and I put it online to sort of make myself. I have a thing with responsibility. So like if I say I'm gonna do something on these days, I'll do it. So I sort of tricked myself into doing a full comic, and it got attention. I didn't promote it, and so I did a Kickstarter, and I used that money to go to shows. I found that, again, I think that was 2013 when I did that. I really love making comics. Like I didn't know, I was a grown man. I didn't know I loved making comics, and so we did another one just for fun, which was Sex Castle, and then as you know, everything went crazy. So then I did Kill Them All after that, which Oni put out. That we've optioned twice, I think now.
Oh, that's great.
And then I did Old Head last year, I think, and then Image put it out, which is the way I like to do it. I love Kickstarter. The experience, it's the best experience for me in comics because you interact with everyone. Like it's everything. You know who's getting it. You know what they want. I like to do like little cutesy things like bespoke commissions or like themed commissions, and seeing what people want and seeing what people it's the best. And then you pack it all together and you mail it out, and I love the experience of it. I love it. But I love going back to Old Head, like I'm very fixated on legacy. And so me making something that's not in a catalog just stresses me out, because it's like I don't want to make things for the void. I want to make things to be read. Like that's my primary function, is to make things that are read. So like Louis Sprouse, like I got to figure out something to do with Louis Sprouse, but what will it ever be? It's a 48-page comic. Who knows?
I understand. Yeah. And it's not a physical comic yet. It's just a digital comic.
Yeah. So I don't even have 200 copies, which to me is actually not that bad, but it's like, man, I don't even have 200 copies that I'm trying to sell at shows or whatever. So yeah. I love Kickstarter. I hope whatever drama they may have caused upon themselves is resolved in some way, because that's what's upsetting. Kickstarter was such a great resource for anyone trying to make comics and self-publishing. Is just, it had a built-in audience. Kickstarter people would look through Kickstarter to buy things, and the other places don't do that. So I love Kickstarter. Full stop. I hope that they work their stuff out, but I love the experience that I've had with Kickstarter. And I probably made more money. I maybe made more money through Kickstarter than I did.
Ryan Brown, that I know that's his Kickstarter's his model, and he tried Image and everything and prefers
Ryan North is for sure making more money not doing comics, for sure.
Ibrahim Mustafa says Kyle's a super unique voice in comics. One of the very few people who can actually make you laugh out loud while reading. Nothing but love to you, man. That's excellent.
I think Ibrahim is the nicest guy in comics. I would love this. I guess there wouldn't be an actual physical altercation to decide who was the nicest guy in comics, but I think it might be Ibram, who I think is an immense talent. And I'm not saying that just because he popped in and said something nice about me. I'd say it.
No, he's in the running. That was my last show. I had Ibrahim on the last video that I did.
Excellent. So, yeah, he's great. I don't see that guy. I haven't seen that guy since Washington, like right before the pandemic. Don't see enough of that dude. I think he's a great dude. He's doing great stuff right now. He's rolling. And I love it. There's nothing better. Like I feel like Ibram's really found his footing. He would speak better too. You guys just did it, I guess. But I feel like he's like now these opportunities are coming, which should be coming anyway because he's great. A real talent.
Agree more, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What shows are you doing this year? Are you doing shows this year?
I just did Lexington. I'm doing Planet Comic-Con.
Sure, Kansas City. Absolutely.
For the first time. It's my first time doing it. I'm very excited. Me and Chris Schweitzer are coming up. We're good friends with Matt Kent and Brian Hurt. And I think they're regulars at that show. So they sort of got us. It's like we're all going up together, the four of us. It's going to be fun. I'm doing Heroes, of course. I'm actually doing a one-day show in Muncie. If this is for your Midwest regionals in May, which should be hopefully a good time. Dr. Blanche is putting it on from Muncie.
Oh, cool.
Maybe CTU2, maybe New York. Since I just got so sick, I feel like I'm the last person who's like, not the last person, but like we just went out and like I was the only person who had a mask on. I'm nervous still, and
sure.
The money isn't so bad. I have to just. I would like to get back to Chicago because it's not in the winter, which is why I didn't do it for the last 2 years or 3 years. Why would you do a paper show in winter in Chicago? I don't understand. So I think I'd like to get back to C2E2 for sure. It's a great show. It's always fun. It's well run. New York Comic Con it's tough to say no to.
I go through the same thing, man. I mean, it's a fun show.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, and also they don't make it easy. They really don't make it easy. They after merging with the anime show, I'm like, okay, there were already more than enough people when it was just two different shows.
It's a lot. But also the money's it's the best money show on the planet, you know. Okay. So it's tough to. That's the thing. Is like, man, I'm not a big city guy. I say I don't. Chicago's fine, which is it's a big city, but New York. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite. Okay. It's not my favorite town to visit, but it's a great show. I feel like when you're in it, we talked earlier about how before the show started, how like there's not enough sort of like pure comic shows, but you know when you're on that floor in New York, it does feel like it feels like everyone there knows what they're doing and they want to get comics. They know about comics, and. I do so many shows around the Rick and Morty guy, and like that's the experience I really want. Is I want people to be like, "Oh man, I love Six Sidekicks. Oh man, I love Old Head." Sex Castle's evergreen for me. Like they say tell me every time. Like it started all. I love it. I think if you like Sex Castle, you like all my stuff. So keep telling me you like Sex Castle. It just means I have like 8 of their books you'll enjoy. I don't think I have that many. I have several other books that you'll enjoy. So those are for sure. I'm always looking for opportunities. The year before the pandemic, I did 36 shows.
Wow.
I think the year before that, I did 32 or 28. It's always high 20s. I'm okay. I'm so busy right now. I'm okay not doing that many again. But also, like, if I don't go sell comics once a month, it makes me weird. It just makes me weird. So yeah, if you have a show, get at me, I guess.
Do you work in digital or do you still do pen and paper?
I never. I actually did Ricky Thunder, which was my first book in pencil and paper. And there's so many things I hated about it. It reminded me why it was so challenging for me to find like my method, which is measuring, erasing, scan. Like I didn't want to do any of that. So when I moved to digital, it changed everything. There's pros and cons. I can't sell original pages, obviously. Right. I'll tell you, I don't get asked that often for original pages. It doesn't happen very often. So that's not a huge concern. And I would rather produce the work than worry about some secondary market value. So I love digital. I use an iPad to do thumbnails for my writing when I'm writing for other people. I love it. If I was smarter, which I know a lot of people like, I know like Erica Henderson's doing full digital now. again. But at times she was like, oh, she'll do your pencils digitally and then ink it traditionally, and then you kind of have the best of both worlds. Like, man, I just want to make work and get it out the door, and whatever the fastest way, the most efficient way, rather. So yeah, I love digital. I should figure out like 3 pages everything I do to do analog or something, but I'm not that smart.
No, I understand. Well, and again, you got a distinct style, so I could see people wanting you to do commissions in terms of parodies of existing heroes or whatever, and
yeah, there's a lot of that
in your style. Oh yeah, I have no doubt, absolutely, man. Wayne wanted to know, given that you have a wrestling character, would you do a crossover with Andy Bellinger?
I don't know if you've ever met Andy Bellinger, but I think he's 7 feet tall, 350 pounds of muscle, and I feel like I'm very type A. How would I ever? I would just be like, yes, Andy, whatever you want. Like that's not a collaboration. That's just queer. I actually met Andy at that Cincy show. Like that's what I was going to say.
Absolutely, man. That's when I met him too. Definitely. So I had him on a few months ago.
Yeah, I like Andy. He's a good guy.
Absolutely.
Collaboration is the hardest part of comics for me, for sure. So, Kyle, do you want to work with anyone? It's always like, I want to work with whoever will work best with me, unfortunately. But yeah, Andy's great. Sure, why not? Well, have Andy put me in touch with TKO. That's what I'd like.
Oh, there you go. Absolutely, man. No, and again, there's another great publisher out there that. It's a really interesting time. I really think the new publishers are very serious and have found unique voices. And Mad Cave, I mean, I really went from 2 years not knowing who the hell they were to then seeing their books and going, oh, look at them. That's a hell of a publisher.
I feel like Mad Caves, and again, I'm not speaking from a place of great knowledge, but they feel very much like Vault, where you sort of heard about Vault, and then suddenly Vault was just killing it. Like everything's great. I heard someone mention, I couldn't even tell you the book, but they mentioned, I remember the publisher, and I'm like, oh, I never heard of them. But a retailer was like, oh, we love this book. And now here's another one. And like, oh, this book, we're excited. Like, we really like these 3 books from Mad Cave. It's like, look at them go. I love it. I love seeing it because like opportunity is so important. Like you don't want the same thing over and over, right? You want different voices. And I agree. People are doing interesting things. And I think like that's the secret, like be interesting and then be great. And I think a lot of publishers, these little publishers, are doing it.
Absolutely. Aftershock, of course, a sponsor of
the
show.
Sure.
And I really love what they've done in crime and horror in particular, so pretty neat stuff. Well, dude, listen, congratulations. Very excited for, I hate this place. I've got the variant cover up here, but because it was cracking me up. And again, final cutoff in less than 2 weeks, 11 days from now.
April 25th. So yeah, if you want that dirty title, you almost definitely have to ask for it. I'm sure everyone comes on here and says that pre-orders are really important to creators. And, getting every book, obviously, like not just getting the first book, but pre-orders are important because they really let the retailer know and they really let the publishers know. But for retailers, like pre-orders are critical for retailers. And if you want a book, like, sometimes if it's Hickman, they'll have it, But if you're supporting like me or like an Alex Packnadell or you pre-order it. It doesn't hurt anything. If you want it, like you just get it. So pre-orders are important. Full stop. The end. I think they are.
Absolutely, man. And again, assassination for you and Erica, and also. Just out at the beginning of this year, 6 sidekicks of Trigger Keaton, and no, like he said, Sex Castle, all these other great books. Old Head, yeah, definitely.
I got a bunch of good ones.
Stuff. What's that?
I got a bunch of good ones.
Exactly.
They're all good. I don't know what the bad one is.
There isn't a bad one. There isn't a bad one. Hey man, no, I'm happy to toot the horn for you and get my people more into your stuff.
I appreciate it so much too. It's always great to talk about. The industry and the process and the work. I just love it. And, these are hard times. We're not getting out like we used to. So it's great. And I appreciate you having me on to promote this book. That's different from my other books. But I think people are really going to enjoy it. I think it's going to be a great time for all, a great spooky time.
Eventually, it's going to happen, Kyle. You got the talent and it's just a matter of awareness. So as you know,
yeah, you got to get the word out. That's what we're doing. I appreciate it. So it's so nice to hear because, that's what we endeavor to do is to be making good work. So
I'm so with you, man. No, congratulations. Keep up the great work, and good luck with I Hate This Place and everything. And yeah, man, I hope maybe we'll see each other at C2E2 in August.
I'm fairly sure I'll be there.
Cool.
I have to send in the thing. We're being real lazy. We're dragging our feet about it. So, yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. I'm at the Kyle Starks on all social media, at kylestarks.com, all that good stuff. I Hate This Place from Skybound. Comes out in May. Pre-orders $425. Sorry about the dogs.
Not a problem. No, great talking to you. Thanks a lot. Everybody, thanks for watching. There's more Word Balloon Live coming up next week. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.